At least 15 people were killed in Lisbon after a funicular railway derailed. Emergency teams, you see them there, are at the site where some people remain trapped at this hour. Now, officials say about 24 people were injured, 9 of whom are now in serious condition. Now, the Gloria Funicular can carry up to 42 people and, of course, is popular with tourists given where it is. You should also note that it is more than a century old. It first opened in 1885 and, of course, has had a lot of upgrades since then. Isa Suarez is with us in London. And Isa, please describe what happened here, what we know so far, and what authorities are telling you.
It's still very early stages at this moment from what we are hearing from authorities as to what exactly happened, Paula. Let me bring our viewers up to date with what we do know from authorities. You see in the scene at the moment, we have many services now trying to pay attention, trying to investigate what exactly has happened to the Funicular de Glória, one of the most iconic funiculars, of course, of Lisbon, for those, of course, who have been to Lisbon. This is what authorities have said to us. We know at least 15 killed, 18 injured, Paula, 5 in serious condition, 13 lightly injured, we've been told, slightly injured, and that of those 13, 1 includes a 3-year-old girl. As to what exactly happened, we do not know. We are hearing reports that a cable snapped, came loose, of course, and then it hit a building. This would have been 6 o'clock roughly in Portugal, been incredibly busy in Lisbon, and this funicular goes from downtown of Lisbon all the way up to one of the most iconic views of Lisbon, of course, up the alleyway. It's a very short route, but is incredibly busy, this part of Lisbon, specifically at this time, not just with tourists, by the way, but with locals. So now we're seeing an incredibly heartbreaking image coming out of Lisbon as authorities try to get to exactly what has occurred here, Paula. It seems that what they're looking at right now is trying to better help the families of those in the ground. We know 3 days of national mourning have been declared, but there's so much we do not know, and that's what authorities are trying to get to the bottom of at this hour.
Yeah, and Isa, can you fill us in here just in terms of the steepness of this funicular? Yeah. As you said, it's very short, but it really is alarming when you say that perhaps a cable snapped and then hit a building.
It is the route that it takes, Paula, and this would help. For those who've been to Lisbon know how old Lisbon, right? How steep it is, those cobblestones, how hard it is trying to get to the top of those hills. The Funicular de Glória, one of the oldest, has a very short route. It's about 275 meters, roughly, and it takes about 3 minutes from the top to the bottom, but it is incredibly steep. So you can only imagine that if something like this happened, if it was indeed a cable coming undone and snapping, the impact this would have had to try and stabilize this funicular and preventing it from hitting not just people on the very busy streets, because this is downtown Lisbon, but also some of the properties, some of the businesses. This is not, Paula, separate from the city centre. This is right bang on in the city centre. To the right, to the left of you, would be tourists, would be Portuguese nationals as well, going back to and from business. There will be hotels, there will be restaurants. Nightlife in Portugal is centred around this area, so it will be packed. It would have been very much packed around that time. And so that gives you the sense of just how busy potential would have been at 6 o'clock potentially in that time, and really the casualties, of course, that would explain why we're seeing so many casualties if it was indeed a cable snapping and then, of course, not having control as it derailed in those steep hills, Paula.
Yeah, and as we say, perhaps rescue efforts still underway at this hour.
Very much so.
Yeah, and Isa, if you know someone who's in Lisbon at this hour as a tourist, if you have a family member who's in that downtown area, right now you are fairly concerned, right? Because as you said, it is something that people are using all the time in that historic area.
Absolutely. Look, I haven't used it because I grew up in Lisbon, so I'm used to seeing it. I know it's very popular with tourists, but also very popular with elderly people who cannot make the journey to the top of the hill. My grandmother used to love the funiculars. It was a staple, of course, of Lisbon life. It was so iconic. Now, it carries about 42 people, and the majority of times it wouldn't have been packed. It's not a busy commuting route, but it is used by locals and indeed by tourists. And this is the beginning of September. It would still be very warm. It would still be packed with tourists. I was there, 3 weeks ago. Lisbon was full of life, really. And this centre of Lisbon would have been particularly so, but that connects you to all the tourist attractions, indeed, the historical sites at the top of the hill.
Isa, stay with me here as we continue to look at some of the pictures coming in, and we're going to watch these together. I apologize in advance if these, I don't know if these are going to be graphic pictures, but we want to have a sense of what happened. This is in the immediate aftermath of this accident, and we're watching it together here, and you can see, Isa, obviously people panicked and trying to get out from those windows. You obviously see what seems like quite a catastrophe here in terms of the derailment itself. I mean, look at it, Isa. It has just completely fallen apart there from the crash.
And you can see that plume. I don't know if we can rewind. We could see that plume of smoke, and we don't see the continuation of that video. But what I'd heard also as well is people talking. You can hear some of the screaming. Let me just be silent for a second. So you can hear the screeches, Paula, the panic in people's voices there. What is not clear is, as that funicular came crashing down, whether it caught people under it, right? Were people trapped under this? Because remember, we're talking about at least 15 killed, 5 in serious condition. Many, of course, were inside, able to come out, but as it hit, as it derailed, were people trapped underneath? And that is a big question at this hour. We also don't know, as we look at those horrible images, of course, coming out of Lisbon, we don't know the nationalities of those who have been killed at this hour. And this is something we'll have to hear from the mayor, who's due to speak, but also from local authorities, Paula.
And Isa, could you just let us know, I mean, I believe we have heard from those in the government in Portugal, and obviously they must be concerned because, as I understand it, there are other funiculars there in operation in the city. Likely they would have halted those.
Yeah, I'm not hearing at this hour whether that's the case. 3 days of national mourning. The president is calling for an investigation on this. We've also heard from other European leaders, including Ursula von der Leyen, sharing his sentiment in Portuguese on X. But this, I know this is something they already said, authorities said they'll be investigating seriously. We know that this funicular, the Glória, is one of the oldest. There are I think there are 2 others, Paula, from what I can remember, that potentially not as old as the Glória, but also used, very popular, and this is something I'm sure they'll try to see whether this could happen again. This is the first time I'm hearing of something like this happening with these funiculars, given, of course, how old they are. You were giving us a bit of context, a bit of history there. They have been upgraded. They've been, at one point they went through steam, but they're very reliable in the majority of times, right? People use them day in, day out. So this is something I'm sure the authorities would try to investigate to get a better picture. And I would assume, your point is quite right, Paul, I would assume that they would put a halt in the use of the other funiculars across Lisbon for the time being.
Yeah, Isa Suarez, grateful to you. You will stand by as we continue to get in more information from authorities and also from our affiliates in Portugal. Thanks again, Isa.